Welcome to the Cozy Historian. If you find yourself drifting off before the story ends, that's perfectly fine. Just remember to like and subscribe before you fall asleep. It helps these quiet journeys through time softly continue. And before your eyes grow heavy, tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are? And what's the last thing you did before bed? Tonight, we're traveling back to the very beginning of rest itself. So fluff your pillow, pull up your blanket, and let's drift back to the world's very first bed. Before we lose ourselves fully in the candlelit calm of the Victorian night, allow me to take your hand, metaphorically, and guide you into a world where sleep was not merely an end to the day, but a delicate ritual woven into the rhythm of life. The 19th century was an age of astonishing contrasts, of soot and lace, of clattering machines and whispered prayers, of gas lamp-lit streets and bedrooms draped in quiet intimacy. And so tonight, we step gently into that world, not as hurried tourists, but as late-evening companions, wandering slowly through rooms softened by dusk and tradition. Picture, if you will, a narrow London street as twilight settles. Lamps flicker uncertainly before catching flame, one by one, ignited by the lamplighter's long pole. The scent of coal smoke drifts lazily between rows of brick houses, and the last horses of the evening clatter past as the city exhales, tired from industry's relentless march. Inside these houses, sleep does not simply arrive. It is prepared for with great care. Let us step into one such home, belonging to a modest middle-class family. The parlor is warm, the last cup of tea consumed, the final letter written. Now begins what Victorians thought of as the gentle descent, a transition from the burdens of daylight to the soft refuge of night. Etiquette manuals of the era insisted that this transition should be orderly and composed, for the state of one's mind upon entering sleep was believed to influence the quality of one's dreams, one's health, and even one's morality. Ascending the stairs, one finds the air cooler, more hushed. A single candle, carried carefully, casts just enough light to reveal the patterned wallpaper and the polished wooden banister. And in one of these upper rooms, we meet Clara, our imagined but wholly typical Victorian woman. Clara moves softly, almost ceremonially, through her bedtime routine. She begins by lighting a candle at her washstand, watching the flame bloom into life. The basin waiting for her is filled with warm water, faintly scented with rose. Washing before bed was considered essential, not just for cleanliness, but for composure. Each stroke of the cloth upon her face is deliberate, shedding the dust and concerns of the day as though they were tangible things that could be rinsed away. Meanwhile, in humbler rooms across the city, the rituals are simpler, but no less meaningful. A working family shares a single space, their candle dim, their voices quiet with fatigue. Boots are removed, garments shaken out, and children tucked into beds shared with siblings. The world of Victorian sleep was shaped heavily by class, yet united by the universal longing for rest. Back in Clara's room, we watch her lift a brush, wooden handle filled with soft bristles, and begin the nightly practice of drawing it through her hair, again and again. Many Victorians believed that brushing the hair 100 times before bed encouraged not only beauty, but tranquility. The rhythmic motion soothed nerves, frayed by the bustle of the day. The bedroom fills with soft sounds, the whisper of fabric, the gentle pull of the brush through hair, the quiet settling of the house as boards cool and relax her bed awaits. neatly arranged, sheets crisp from the line, blankets layered according to season, pillows softened by years of use. The Victorians gave great attention to bedding, regarding it not merely as comfort, but as a contributor to health. A good mattress, stuffed with horsehair, cotton, wool, or feathers, was thought to promote structural integrity of the spine and purity of the mind. Yet bedtime was not always peaceful. The Victorian era was filled with anxieties about sleep. Doctors warned against too much of it, or too little of it. Some insisted fresh air was essential. Others feared the chill night air as a carrier of disease. Windows were cracked open only fingers with, or else shut tightly, depending on which school of thought a household followed. Advice manuals often contradicted each other spectacularly. One might say, never sleep with the window shut, for air must move freely about the lungs. Another might warn, never allow the night air inside, for it weakens the constitution. And so families made their choices based on tradition, intuition, or simple habit. But despite these debates, certain beliefs were widespread. For example, many Victorians believed that dreams held meaning, not merely the drifting nonsense of the mind, but symbolic messages about one's health, one's future, or one's moral state. Nightmares were sometimes blamed on indigestion, excitement, poor ventilation, or in some circles, supernatural interference. A sprig of dried lavender or rosemary might be slipped under a pillow to encourage gentle dreams, or a devotional book placed beneath the mattress for reassurance. Clara herself, finishing her preparations, moves to her bedside table. She opens a small volume of poetry, perhaps Tennyson or Christina Rossetti, and reads by a wavering candlelight. Reading before bed was a cherished luxury for those who had the time for it, a final moment of quiet reflection. The words sink into her mind like warm milk, easing her thoughts into softness. Down the street, however, a factory worker collapses into bed without such luxuries. His movements are heavy with exhaustion, his body shaped by long hours of labor. His sleep comes quickly, without ceremony, but carries its own form of dignity, the dignity of hard-earned rest. Clara closes her book. She places it carefully upon the table, extinguishes the candle, and settles under the blankets. And in the darkness, punctuated only by faint moonlight creeping through a gap in the curtains, she finally allows herself to drift. But our journey tonight is far from over. For beyond Clara's quiet room lies an entire world of nighttime customs. Nightshirts and caps, hearth embers and bed warmers, nighttime prayers and whispered secrets, the fears of sleeplessness, the fascination with dreams, and the steady evolution of sleep itself in an age transformed by industry. So let us continue deeper into the night, as the city settles into slumber and candles burn low in houses great and small. Let us wander through the Victorian bedroom, not as observers of the past, but as dreamers alongside them, listening to the soft sigh of sheets, the distant clatter of the last carriage, and the quiet heartbeat of a world preparing to sleep. And now, let us turn the page and drift further into the Victorian night. As the night deepens and Clara drifts into her well-earned rest, let us wander beyond her quiet room and into the greater landscape of Victorian slumber. A landscape shaped by science, superstition, industry, and the irresistible human yearning for peace at the end of each day. The Victorians, perhaps more than any generation before them, thought ceaselessly about the nature of sleep. They studied it, feared it, romanticized it, and sometimes even moralized it. To them, sleep was not simply an unconscious state, but a nightly voyage, laden with meaning and fraught with potential dangers and wonders alike. Consider for a moment the humble nightshirt. Far from being a simple garment, it represented modesty, warmth, hygiene, and even spiritual preparedness. Men favored loose cotton or linen shirts that reached nearly to the knee, while women wore long white gowns trimmed with lace or embroidery. Nightcaps were common too, not only for warmth in drafty homes, but because Victorians believed that protecting the head preserved vitality. A chill scalp, some claimed, invited illness or poor dreams. In households fortunate enough to own one, a bed warmer, a metal pan filled with hot coals, was passed between the sheets before bed, sending curls of heat into the cold linens. In less affluent homes, heated bricks wrapped in cloth served the same purpose. The first touch of warmth in those frigid rooms must have felt like pure luxury on winter nights, when breath turned to mist in the air. Yet no matter how warm the bed, worries often crept into the Victorian night. Sleeplessness, what they called wakefulness, was a frequent complaint, and many remedies were devised to combat it. Doctors prescribed warm milk, gentle exercise, fresh air before retiring, or the popular composing draught, a mixture that might contain opium, alcohol, or valerian root etiquette. Books advised clearing the mind of earthly concerns, reciting a prayer, or imagining peaceful pastoral scenes. It was said that lying awake too long could weaken the constitution, strain the nerves, or even threaten one's moral fibre. The Victorians linked rest to virtue in ways that strike us as unusual today. A diligent person rose early. An indolent person lingered too long in bed. Children were trained from a young age to wake promptly. For character, it was believed, was shaped as much by one's relationship with sleep as by one's studies or manners. But while sleeplessness troubled many, dreams fascinated them even more. Books of dream interpretation circulated widely, offering symbolic meanings for visions of birds, storms, ships, loved ones, and the dead. Some interpreted dreams as divine messages, while others saw them as reflections of inner turmoil or hopes unspoken. Clara herself occasionally recorded dreams in a small journal kept in the drawer beside her bed, a common practice among Victorian women who believed that the subconscious world might reveal hidden truths. Her entries, written in delicate script, often described floating above moonlit fields or speaking with people she had not seen for years. Dreams served as a quiet companion to the Victorian mind, a place where imagination could unfold freely, even for those whose waking lives were tightly bound by duty and decorum. Beyond the private chambers of individuals like Clara, the Victorian era witnessed sweeping changes in how sleep itself was understood. With the rise of industrial schedules, nighttime ceased to be the flexible realm it had once been. Factories demanded early rising and strict hours. Trains roared into existence, slicing through the night and altering the rhythms of entire cities. Streetlights pushed back the darkness, beckoning people to stay awake longer, explore more, work more, consume more. The world brightened, and in doing so, sleep retreated further into the margins. Even the architecture of bedrooms began to change. Earlier centuries had seen people sharing beds for warmth or practicality. But by the mid-19th century, privacy became a growing ideal. Bedrooms were increasingly regarded as intimate, personal sanctuaries. Separate beds for husbands and wives became surprisingly common, recommended by doctors for reasons ranging from hygiene to ensuring the purity of rest. Furniture makers embraced this new ideal with enthusiasm, designing bedsteads of brass, iron, and carved wood. Mattresses evolved too, as materials became more refined and mass production gained momentum. The Victorian bed was both a functional object and a symbol of propriety, comfort, and identity. But sleep was not only a matter of health or convenience, it was woven into the culture's very storytelling. Ghost tales set at midnight, moral fables involving restless spirits, and poetic descriptions of slumber-filled magazines and parlours alike. The Victorians enjoyed being gently frightened or mystified before bed, provided the story ended safely with the dawn. And then there were the nighttime sounds, the lullabies of the Victorian city. A distant carriage rolling over cobblestones, the soft hiss of gas lamps, a neighbour's footfall on creaking boards, the faint coo of a pigeon nesting on a windowsill. These sounds shaped the experience of sleep just as much as the bedding or rituals. For Clara, lying beneath her blankets, the city's nocturnal hum blended with the whisper of cotton sheets and the slow rhythm of her own breathing. But not all nighttime environments were so gentle. In poorer districts, multiple families might share a single room. The air thickened with heat and bodies. Rats rustled at the walls. Coal smoke drifted through cracked windows. Yet even within these cramped quarters, people found ways to rest, carving out pockets of peace where a mother might hum softly to soothe a child. A father might fold his coat to make a better pillow. A candle stub might flicker just long enough to bring comfort before extinguishing itself for the night. Sleep, in all its forms, belonged to everyone. Let us return once more to Clara, hours after she drifted off. The candle has long since gone out, leaving only the pale moon to draw soft patterns on the floorboards. Her breathing is slow, her dreams gentle. Perhaps she wanders through a garden fringed with lilies. Perhaps she hears the echo of a lullaby sung to her in childhood. Perhaps she simply floats in the quiet darkness, the kind of dreamless rest that leaves the body restored. Outside her window, dawn begins to rise. A faint blush touches the tops of the rooftops. The lamplighter makes his final rounds, extinguishing the lamps lit only hours before. The city stirs, slowly at first. Then, with gathering energy, Clara wakes, stretches, and sits up, blinking in the muted morning light. The warmth of her bed still wraps around her like a gentle memory. She lifts the curtain slightly and watches a milk cart rattle past. The day has begun, and with it the responsibilities and routines that define her world. But for a few lingering moments, she remains in that liminal space between dreams and waking, a place the Victorians cherished as the threshold of new possibilities. She stands, dresses, and prepares to face the day. And so, the cycle begins anew. For evening will come again, and sleep will call her back to the quiet sanctuary of home. As we, too, prepare to leave this Victorian night behind, let us carry with us the tenderness of their rituals, the poetry of their dreams, and the deep human desire, unchanged across centuries, to find rest, safety, and peace once the sun goes down. In the end, perhaps the greatest gift sleep offers is not merely renewal of the body, but a nightly reminder that rest is sacred. The Victorians, with all their complexities and contradictions, understood this truth intimately. And so, dear listener, as we close our eyes on this chapter of time, may we feel a little closer to those who lived before us. Those who brushed out their hair by candlelight, warmed their beds with glowing coals, whispered prayers into the darkness, and trusted the night to carry them softly into morning. And so, dear listener, as the candles fade and the night deepens, may your dreams be filled with the soft echoes of history. Until next time, sleep well.